buti talaga may ML kundi baka pulutin ako, baka nasa loob na ako ng bilibid. Mga gano'n yung mga jokes nila. They usually grew up sa mga places na hindi mo talaga masasabing maganda for a kid. Sana po talaga ma-welcome pa yung ng sports community, yung esports. We are so much alike than you think. There is that equal competitiveness and passion of a kid playing Mobile Legends professionally. Kung paano nila tinitreat yung hard work at pinatern sa sports, may katulad po talaga siya with MLBB. It's just that video games nilalaro instead of basketball games.
Welcome to the Game Halftime, where we dive into the mindset of champions on and off the court. Today, we have a very special guest. He's practically a legend in the local esports scene. He's a shoutcaster, an analyst, and a former coach. And his voice might be familiar to you because it's part of the one of the biggest gaming competitions in Southeast Asia, Mobile Legends Bang Bang Professional League. Please welcome to the game, Wolf.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you po. Grabe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Wolf, let's start out with your name. How did you get your esports name, Wolf?
Dito sa mundo ng Mobile Legends or sa gaming or esports, we have IGs or screen names essentially. And when nung maglalaro kami ng mga kasama ko, we were thinking about what's a cool IG, and so I thought about like Alpha, alam mo yung mga talagang maangas. But then I also got sick during that time, and the reason why I'm playing a lot of video games was because I was sick with chronic ailment na hindi siya gumagaling. So it's a autoimmune disease called lupus. And lupus in Latin is wolf. And then I'm a big sobrang nerd ako eh. I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings and then eventually Game of Thrones. And there's a character doon sa Game of Thrones that said na parang wear it like armor so it will not be used against you. So mga ganong klaseng inspiration. That's why I used wolf
Si
as my
Tyrion
IGN.
nagsabi na, di ba? Tyrion Lannister.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's Tyrion
okay.
Lannister.
Peter
Yeah.
Dinklage. Yeah, I remember that. He told that to Jon Snow.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Game of
So
Thrones fan din ako.
yeah, perfect. Ayan, so parang yun po yung dahilan bakit ko siya ginamit kasi although lupus kinda made life way harder for me, but I just used it para maging inspiration na rin at motivation to strive harder.
And there's also a nice story about your actual given name, no? Your actual
Yes.
name is Caisam Ives.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where you got that name?
Yeah, and it's also related to what I'm doing right now kasi my dad ay sobrang fan ng local basketball scene, ng basketball in general, pero particularly San Miguel. At kung mapapansin niyo po yung pangalan ko sobrang unique. Wala siyang proper pronunciation kasi it doesn't exist. Kasi it's an combination of Alan Kaidik and Samboy Lim and Ives Dignadice. So mga San Miguel legends at pinagsama-sama niyan. So parang alam mo yun, like yung typical household, pagsasamahin mo yung pangalan ng magulang or ng lolo't lola, parang gano'n. But my dad said, "Okay, hindi, mas importante ang San Miguel kaysa sa family natin." Yeah,
So, three names pa ng players
that's right,
ang pinagkasya niya sa name mo, ano?
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great story. But yeah, how did you get involved in esports?
Mhm.
It's a very unique career, a shoutcaster.
So,
Where did it all start?
ano kasi parang since I was a fan of basketball and competitive sports in general, so my dad would always play a game sa TV. So sobrang na-familiarize na ako with competition sports tsaka commentating at lagi akong amazed sa commentators. I grew up as a writer din na sports writer, features writer sa school, mga school's press conference and whatnot. Tapos eventually nung nagkasakit ako, I thought there must be some way for me to still make money kasi ano po kami hindi naman talaga we didn't grow up in a rich household or anything. So parang na-instill sa'min na maghanap ng trabaho, parang mag-aral para magkatrabaho, right? So long story short, nung nagkasakit ako and I was already playing Dota, nagulat ako nung nakapanood ako ng random documentary called Free to Play about Dota, which is back then sobrang hype kasi parang for the very first time may $1 million event, $1 million for the champion. So everybody was hyped. They made the documentary out of it. When I watched it, nagulat ako kasi may commentator, may analyst na nagpe-predict ng mga mangyayari, which I do sa game. Tapos may play-by-play na para talaga siyang broadcast. And I felt like, okay, so gusto ko 'to before at parang medyo inclined naman ako eventually mag-ganito, why don't I strive for it? Although I started as a writer for sports, for esports, since sports writer na ako ta's parang nakahanap ako randomly sa, isang network, local network din sa Philippines na nag-venture sila sa esports. So nag-audition ako dun or nag-submit ako nag-apply ako for the job and fortunately I got accepted. From then on, nagsimula kaming gumawa ng mga shows then na I was producing. After what, 2 years of working as a writer, nagkaroon ng opportunity to shoutcast out of nowhere. They needed a shoutcaster for Dota 2 tapos I just happened to be available that night tapos dun na po siya nagsimula. But, to answer your question, nagsimula siya nung interest ko kasi sa sports na nagulat talaga ako na mind blown ako na ba't gano'n parang sports commentator 'tong mga 'to.
So, yung mga traditional, quote unquote, sportscasters or basketball, volleyball, all of them, they grew up idolizing or watching mga veteran
Mhm,
sportscasters, ano.
that's right.
But in your case, wala gaanong gano'n dito, no? So, how did you
Oh,
pattern your style of
great
commentating?
question, great question mo kasi, in fact, tama po yun, eh, wala po talagang pattern. So, that's also part of why I wanted to do it kasi gusto ko rin maging part ng something new. Fortunately naman merong mga konting ipa-pattern ka na nauna sa mundo nun, na parang usually they're from the US, so mga ano sila, mga foreign, shoutcasters. So at least meron nung part na yun. Dito sa Philippines wala po talagang analytic which, I am, more inclined to. So the likes of, although hindi si Mike Breen kasi hindi po siya analyst, eh, pero usually nakakasama niya yung mga, the likes of Reggie Miller, Steve Kerr, yung mga gano'n. So, mga dating coach, so parang gano'n yung naging pattern ko. So, to answer your question, pinattern ko po siya talaga sa traditional sports and, I think yung mga producers nung esports back then, nagulat din sila kasi kakaibang flavor agad. Parang hindi siya katulad nung ginagawa nung, mga traditional traditional esports, pero yung mga naunang esports, yeah.
Your job, it entails a lot of sitting in front of a camera, sitting down for long periods of time. I'm sure that's very tiresome.
Yes.
It can take a toll, ano. What's a typical day off like for you? How do you unwind? How do you relax?
I've already developed this naman through the years pero before nung kabataan, alam mo yung parang you're just into the grind na parang hindi walang day off. So you still have to you play video games pa tapos nag-aaral ka. Ako used to this habit of really just watching a lot of videos na hindi esports para puwede ko siyang ilagay sa esports like basketball, and other shows na gusto ko like, even yung mga F1 I watch it just so that I absorb something. Although I'm not a fan of that, parang gano'n. So, ngayon tina-try ko na maging healthy, I work out, but a typical day off would be just watching movies and, listening to podcasts. Going to the gym sometimes and really just not play a video game. Kasi baliktad, eh, usually you play video games to have fun, for
Yeah.
us since work siya parang we stay away from it.
Do you root for any particular professional teams in other
In
sports?
others for, yeah, sa ngayon, I have to root for the Lakers. I used to root for the Miami Heat since nandun si Dwayne Wade and si LeBron James. But yeah, actually yung love ko for Miami Heat was because of that '06 run talaga when I watch it, no. So, parang alam nung time na yun 'di ba, parang tanghali siya, almost tanghali siya sa'tin. So, sakto siya sa break ng mga high school students. So, yun talaga yung mapapanood ko lang at yeah, so I rooted for that tapos eventually with LeBron James yung batch nila at ngayon, yeah. Before I didn't like the Lakers because I see myself as a nonconformist but I am required to like the Lakers now. Yeah.
So basically, what you're telling me is you are a LeBron fan.
LeBron fan
LeBron fan
basically,
talaga. All
basically,
right. So
yeah.
wherever he goes, yun
Gano'n
yung
na nga po.
Okay, so naging Heat fan ka na, naging Cubs fan ka na.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
May
Yeah.
kilala akong ganyan. So you mentioned also you were once a writer,
Mhm.
right? And now you're a shoutcaster.
Yes.
Essentially, you're both. In both jobs, you're parang telling a story, ano? Tama ba? You
Yes,
consider
yes.
yourself a storyteller in that regard?
Great question because that's what I want to aspire po. In fact, ngayon na parang since medyo tumatagal na po ako sa scene sa shoutcasting, so nandun na ako sa point na nagtuturo na kami sa mga parating na bago. And I always tell them, there's nothing better than telling a story. I think that's the best skill that you'll ever have as a shoutcaster commentator. And that's also the reason why I chose Mobile Legends kasi parang ano po yan sir, nung pagka-start nung MLBB, hindi siya gusto ng mga tao. Even up until na 'di ba, parang may mga preconceptions na, "Ano yan, mobile game." Parang may certain class of people na nag-e-enjoy talaga niyan. Sobrang masa niya and everything. There's always that connotation with MLBB. Um, but what made me fall in love with the community of MLBB was the stories. Kasi even when the mobile games are, games yan, eh, pero yung storya nila sobrang totoo, eh. You will learn that they grew up from they were poor. Makikita mo kung bakit sila competitive because they were put in a harsh environment when they were young. They had their struggles tapos merong mga rivalries na nagfo-form. May magagandang mga tsismis that allows them to, may mga konting mga side kwento na nakakatawa, nakakatuwa and everything. So, all of the stories that we get from MLBB, sobrang totoo nila, eh, and, that's what really made me fall in love with the scene.
Do you have any one particular favorite story or subject?
Huh. Yeah, so siguro recent memory, recency bias na lang, there's this guy that we call, his name is Kelra. So siya yung pinakamagaling dun sa role niya. Let's just say he's probably, Michael Jordan of that role. So parang may
Okay.
specific role
That's
siya.
high praise.
Yeah.
Whenever you're the Michael Jordan of something.
Exactly, and specifically, people like that, people agree na siya yung best. Even yung mga competitors niya will say that, yeah, he's the best. So meron siyang specific na role called the gold lane. So basically, they get the most gold sa game. Parang sa sabihin natin sila yung bida, siya lang yung tumitira lagi ng shots. They're gonna be the ones taking the shots. And eventually, we developed this storyline where we called him the gold standard. Kasi nga, gold lane siya. And we fought for that title for parang ano 'di ba season 17 na po ngayon ng MPL. Season 10 pa lang meron ng gano'ng discussions and na-stamp siya nung season 14. So it took like 2 years, 3 years to develop that storyline. And then recently may mga bago pang story na nagra-rise from that, parang yung china-challenge siya ngayon, imported siya to Indonesia. Following the story of this kid, and I had a podcast with him. He also grew up in a very chaotic place, taga Muntinlupa. Alam mo yung napaka-brass magsalita, napaka-raw. But eventually, kaya pala siya maangas in game because you understand that this is where he came from. So, yeah, that's one of my faves.
Would you say maraming ganong stories sa
Yes. Oh, etong
esports?
mga ML players sir, they usually grew up sa mga places na hindi mo talaga masasabing, maganda for a kid, naman. Fortunately for them, they had this opportunity. They always joke, lagi nilang sinasabi na, "Buti talaga may ML kundi baka pulutin ako, baka nasa loob na ako ng bilibid." Mga gano'n yung mga jokes nila. Siyempre they grew up in ano, eh, in the slums, eh. Merong mga Cruz Naligas, which is ano, very, chaotic place. Merong mga taga Tondo, the Cavite, all of these, yung alam mo yung mga sinasabi natin magugulong mga lugar. There are a lot of players who grew up from that place, and when you see them, mafi-feel mo talaga na ano sila, maangas, like they're ano ba yung word na yun, parang hindi sila nagtitipid sa mga salita nila kung ano yung bandang
Unfiltered.
sila unfiltered, yeah. And they're very competitive, and, that's how you understand that yung galing nangyari. And fortunately, there's esports to help them and, get them out of that place.
Yeah, at least channel yung whatever
Yeah.
aggression they have to something else.
Yes po.
Now, looking at the broader landscape of esports, and it's been a big part of Filipino culture, no, nag-umpisa sa mga computer shops, eventually it migrated to
Mhm.
mobile games like MLBB. As someone who's been in the scene for the better part of a decade, how have you seen gaming and esports evolve through time?
Technically speaking, Gen 2 na ako, eh. Although 2016 is the 10th year of my casting career, pero when it comes to writing and storytelling, this is my 12th, 13th year. So, parang nandun siya parang in between Gen 1 to Gen 2. So, nakita ko po talaga nung time na hindi talaga siya career. to answer your question na kung paano ko siya nakita nag-develop, before it could never be a career. It will always be a side racket. Parang you always have to have a day job para, to put food on the table, but still get to do what you're passionate about. Ngayon, ang kagandahan is not only players can live off of their careers in esports and MLBB, but also yung mga camera crew, league operations, like yung mga referees, marshals, producers, writers like myself would wish, yung 10 years ago, would wish na something like this existed para at least yung lahat ng kwentong gusto kong magawa, magagawa ko, ganun. So, at least there's that. And I think right now, I know it's funny, but some younger parents would want their kids na parang, "Uy, ano, galingan mo sa ML, baka maging katulad ka nitong player na 'to." And they're supporting, like yung mga parents ngayon, nanonood po sila ng mga MLBB matches every game, pinupuntahan nila yung anak nila, and it's like, it's really nice to see.
Oh, so may gano'ng dynamic na ano,
May gano'n, parang sino-support na.
may mga ano na, mga kung may soccer mom, ito may parang esports mom,
Yes,
gano'n.
yes, yes, opo, gano'n.
Speaking of careers, for a while, you also had a coaching stint. Can you tell us about that?
I felt like, I've always been analytic of MLBB tapos the esports, and I've always wanted to coach. It's always a what if for me na what if i-try ko 'to, and, there was an opportunity that came up, and it was good enough for me to leave shoutcasting muna and just focus on that. Kaya po tinanggap ko yung sa TNC. Plus I also want to still, um, capitalize on my competitive nature. Yun lang. Alam ko po, tanggap ko po na hindi ko na kayang maglaro, na hindi na ako, I'm not as fast as those kids anymore, but I know that that at least yung utak ko makakatulong. So I tried to go for that, and it felt like siguro may magandang mangyari dito afterwards na, ah, baka may ma-apply ako sa future casting if I do go back to shoutcasting. Kasi if you also see yung pattern sa traditional sports, mga coaches po nagiging ano, analyst sa broadcast, eh. So I felt like, siguro baka gano'n eventually. It was cut short, yung coaching stint ko because of, wala kaming magandang results. Pero, I know that during that time, we made people happy naman, we entertained people, we touched lives, and myself, I've improved a lot, and masasabi ko kahit hindi gano'n kaganda yung result, it was a great part of my career.
May
Yeah.
mga takeaways ka pa rin naman kahit papaano ano?
Sobrang daming takeaways, yeah, and actually feeling ko nag-improve ng sobra yung commentating or shoutcasting ko, kasi parang mas naka-connect ako with the players. Meron pala kaming mga misunderstood kasi when you're analyzing sa broadcast, ano kayo, parang you're always like, "Eto yung perfect scenario, eto yung ganyan." But when you're in a team, hindi pala gano'n kadali talaga maabot yung
Yeah.
perfect scenario na yun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually you know naman 'di ba, minsan coaches and analysts in any sport
Mhm.
nagka-clash 'di ba, and the coach will say, "Kayo kaya mag-coach para
Hmm.
malaman niyo." So, that's exactly what happened to you.
Exactly. Oh my God. Wow. Perfect, perfect po answer kasi, that's what it really felt like. I mean, it's one thing to know what to do, it's another to do it. Ganyan talaga siya.
Basically in the Philippines ano, before it was like, Dota and Tekken country, and now MLBB is, king. Why do you think that happened? How did MLBB, overtake ano,
Well,
Dota and Tekken?
my short answer to that is because it's accessible. Everybody can play it, and may connotation before ng ML ay pangbata kasi it's easier to understand. The barrier of entry sobrang dali para sa ML, and I think that's the magic of it. Kasi eventually naman 'pag naglaro na yung mga magagaling, sobrang high level na niya. So I think that's the magic. I remember nung season 1 ng MPL, kasi 'di ba parang first broadcast namin ng MPL. Before that puro Dota, puro Tekken, puro mga ano, mga lalaki ages 18 to 28 ang nakikita mo, like yun lang, like wala. 'Pag merong isang babae dun sa tournament na kinakast mo, makikita mo sa audience, lahat ng parang 1 in 20 yun, ta's talagang magsha-shine siya, gano'n. When first did the MPL, sobrang na-shock ako. It was a free event, lahat ng klase na I'm not kidding, there are kids, may mga tita, may mga lola, I'm not kidding. There are grandmothers out there supporting yung kanilang, I don't know, maybe yung grandchild nila, tapos may buong family na nandun sila, nandun yung tatay, nanay, the brothers, sisters of who they're supporting. So, that to me speaks na parang ang the reason kung bakit mas sumikat ang ML is mas kaya siyang intindihin ng lahat, mas accessible siya sa lahat, and, anyone from any age, gender, um, kung ano yung upbringing nila sa buhay, puwede ma-appreciate yung ML.
Looking forward naman, next
Mhm,
10 years, how do you see the future of
hmm,
esports in the Philippines? We've been making a name for ourselves naman in the international arena, di ba? But yeah,
yes.
in 10 years, how do you see it evolving?
Feeling ko ano, mas maraming exports na ang Philippines. Kasi parang gano'n, parami ng parami, eh. Yung talent na napa-produce natin dito sa coaching and sa players, import quality, eh. So, yun yung nakikita ko. But also I think there might be more video games styles. Parang may napapansin akong cycle na every 10 years merong new big thing. So, there might be another big thing, or maybe Mobile Legends can beat that again dito sa Philippines, like how basketball has always been able to dominate. Kasi parang nandun talaga. Dati akala ko talaga Dota country ang Philippines, pero naging ML country siya in a snap. And I think it will might be the same as ano, basketball, that how much we love basketball here in the Philippines.
I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine who's been in the industry for the past 10, 15 years. Ano?
Mhm,
We had dinner last week. And parang he told me na he's gonna get out of the esports game
mhm.
or the
Scene.
community, the
Mhm.
scene in the next 10 years. Kasi sabi ko, bakit naman you have a name for yourself? And he said, basically, his answer kind of struck me. Ano? He said na, I won't have any credibility as a 50-year-old in esports when that time comes. So I have to do something else. Do you agree with that? And you, how are you? How do you see yourself in 10 years?
5 years ago, I would have agreed with him. Pero sa'kin kasi nag-evolve, eh. Maybe hindi ka na mapupunta dun sa front end na parang ikaw yung nagka-cast or ikaw yung naglalaro or ikaw yung nagma-manage. Pero we need the expertise. That's what I realized, sir, eh. Kasi parang we need the expertise of people outside of esports. Let's say a broadcast, 'di ba? Parang nagra-run siya, there are writers, there are directors or producers. Before, puro mga esports people yung nagra-run 'yan, and we are coming into a lot of bottlenecks, lot of problems na someone from other industries would have easily dealt with.
Mhm.
Alam mo 'yun, parang may direktor diyan na wala sa esports pero alam niya yung gagawin agad to solve it, and kailangan lang i-bridge 'yun. So, how do I see myself in 10 years? I would love to still be casting like the OGs dito sa Philippines have been casting
Right.
esports. Gusto ko maging gano'n, na maging sharp pa rin yung mind ko when that happens. But if in case na there is a lot of people who will be better suited for the job, I hope I'm still contributing sa esports, kung hindi man front end is back end. So, maybe, maybe I'm selling a product, or maybe I'm part of marketing, maybe sa coaching staff na ako na yung nagte-train ng mga coaches, or maybe I'm training the casters, maybe somewhere along those lines. How do I see myself in 10 years? I'm sure I'll still be involved in esports one way or another.
So you would say na the ecosystem is large enough to sustain
Yeah.
a long
Think
career.
so, I think so. Ngayon po kasi talaga may demand ng mga experts, eh. I feel like just looking at the broadcast itself, naramdaman ko talaga na kinailangan namin yung, expertise. Like this podcast, there are great, the directors, producers, at yung mga cameramen. Like, I think those kinds of talents puwedeng-puwede siya at may space siya sa esports.
Message for the esports community here.
Sana po talaga ma-welcome pa yung ng sports community, yung esports. We are so much alike than you think. Mukha lang hindi kasi video games po yung, na-enjoy namin. Pero I wanna tell everyone na kung gaano ka-dedicated sila, the likes of James Yap, Baroka, Ping Reis, with their craft, there is that equal competitiveness and passion of a kid playing Mobile Legends professionally, or Carl TZ, the King Kong, etong sila Sanford na sikat ngayon sa MLBB. Kung paano nila tinitreat yung hard work at pinatern sa sports, may katulad po talaga siya with MLBB. It's just that video games nilalaro instead of a basketball game. So,
So do you feel there's still a barrier between two? I mean, hindi pa totally accepted as a, one of the mainstream sports ang esports or
parang hindi pa po, eh, parang, although we could always say na sports na right now siguro lamang is mas marami ngang viewers, itong esports kumpara sa traditional sports. But, I think yun din talaga, eh, parang when you see mobile games or video games, parang kadalasan ang connotation is hindi ka kikita din talaga diyan. You're better off, doing something else, right? Laging irresponsible yung tingin sa mga nagvi-video games, but it's not the case. Of course din meron pa rin mga hindi ko naman nilalahat, pero with video games, there is that same grit and passion, competitiveness, and discipline right now sa mundo ng professional esports that I'm sure that sports people would love to also know about.
thank you very much,
Thank
Wolf.
you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that was a really great, very insightful
Thank you.
conversation
Thank you. Thank you.
we had. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Game Halftime. Make sure to follow and subscribe to The Game for more content about your favorite athletes and icons in the world of sports and lifestyle.